Welcome to the Chapter 3 Stigma podcast. This podcast was created to be there for any individual who feels that they are at a low point in life and are confused, seemingly alone, and helpless in their situation. I am a recovering alcoholic, and I felt this way too, until I sat across a table from another addict who shared his story and made me realize that I was not alone in my struggles. My life was saved by this realization, and I hope to help anyone struggling by sharing my story to show you that you are not alone and that life can contain unbelievable riches and meaning. Welcome. I am glad you are here. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Chapter 3 Stigma podcast. Today's episode has no guest. It's back to a monologue, really to share one of the more difficult aspects of my addiction battle, really at the mark of a milestone in my recovery journey. Overall, this was inspired by passing through the 2.5-year mark of living in recovery this past week. And really reflecting back and just thinking upon the time that I was battling my addiction and how 2.5 years genuinely seemed like an impossible mark. I often couldn't go 2.5 minutes or even 2.5 seconds without thinking about having urges, desires, having to suppress some of the madness that came with the addiction and just constantly having alcohol on my mind and wanting to consume and wanting to pursue it to chase away the level of discomfort that I was feeling in life and with myself. And so to kind of mark this moment and also share out some of the work that I've been doing pertaining to writing out my story, I decided that I would share a portion of one of the more difficult chapters of the book that I'm working on, one of the more difficult chapters to write, and one of the more difficult chapters of my life to revisit. In doing this episode and in writing the chapter itself as a part of the greater body of work, I really aim to capture the pain, the insanity, the manipulation of loved ones, and ultimately the self-loathing and the madness that came with these drinking cycles that I would fall into. I'm just going to state flat out, this is difficult to read. It is embarrassing. It is gross. It is extremely hard to travel back to this time in our lives, but I also think it is really important to do so. If any of what I'm about to read resonates with any of you out there, I just want to impress on you and hope to make you realize that there is a solution that can rid you of this obsession and this madness. So with that, I'm going to get into chapter 16 of my memoir. The chapter title is Cycles, and just as a bit of a primer, this is in the process of the final stages of editing. So if you catch some mistakes, slip-ups, it's on me at this moment. There's still some final polishing that needs to get done, but I think the insanity and the madness is well communicated through this. So with that, to chapter 16, titled Cycles. I clenched my keys so hard I hoped the metal would break through skin. Fear was all-encompassing. Kyle, you don't have to do this right now. My voice shook. Who was I talking to? I thought. Kyle, you're sober. This doesn't have to happen. It was a final plea to myself, one that I knew I wouldn't win. The idea of drinking had taken over. It had been 2 weeks since my last drink, since the last time I had to lie to Alyssa. I knew it was going to happen. Last week, I had looked ahead at my work calendar and identified this as a time when I could get away with drinking. The excitement built within me as I suppressed the part of me that had made a final, desperate plea for me to stay home. With that, I opened the door and stepped out to my truck to make a run for alcohol. I'm just going to do this today. I'm going to be in control when Alyssa gets home from work, I reasoned to myself. My systems were ramping into overdrive. I could feel the neurons in my brain firing up, preparing for the flood of chemicals that they were about to be bathed in as soon as I started consuming. My heart was racing and my breathing rate quickened. On the 5-minute drive to the grocery store, I went over my purchase plan. I needed to purchase a few food items that would justify my run to the grocery store. It was unusual to purchase only alcohol at 12:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. Coming out of the chapter, I'm going to skip ahead. The next portion, I summarize the activities, the madness that went along with making the purchases and coming home, and just the anxiety of wanting to be home, to be alone. And back to the chapter. I parked my vehicle outside the front of my house and scanned the neighborhood. I double-bagged the alcohol in an attempt to conceal the packaging for this part of the process. I needed to ensure no neighbors were within viewing distance. I feared facing questions about the nature of these random store runs. Seemingly in the clear, I grabbed the bags and rushed inside. I made an attempt to mask the shape of the beer packaging and hide it from view in case anyone happened to peer out their window. Once inside, my shoes and keys were placed to look as if I never left. Nothing could be out of place to cause any questions from Alyssa. Our kitchen was in the back corner of our home. Curtains and blinds were drawn on my way back to the space. Once there, I opened the beer packaging, removing my first drink, and took the added precautionary step of placing the can in a koozie on the small chance that anyone would see me drinking from outside the house. This gives me deniability if they can't see that it's a beer, I figured. Anxiety and obsessive paranoia were rapidly becoming my close companions in life. Today, I was calm enough to take the time to put the remaining groceries away and slide the rest of the drinks into the refrigerator before going to sit down with the first drink. At the sound of the can snapping open, an instant relief was realized. Calm washed over me as I took my first drink. With all the curtains drawn, I settled into my den of isolation. I was finally free from the fears and anxieties that had been gripping me leading up to this first drink. The anxiety had felt especially intense today, so I sat in the feeling of relief for an extra few breaths. I took notice of the calm that I now felt. It has been a hell of a few weeks. You deserve this, I thought. After taking down more of my drink, I could sense the warmth of alcohol running through my veins. I bathed in the additional relief it provided as I sat alone. I felt satisfied, content, and happy. I took in the space around me and appreciated the fact that I was alone. Suddenly, the relief vanished with a single realization. I want more. Coming out of the chapter, skipping ahead, and moving on back into the chapter. With a new drink poured, I became serious about planning a second alcohol run. I revisit my drinking math, deciding how much is reasonable to purchase and drink before Alyssa gets home. With my mind overtaken at the idea of more alcohol, I prepare to leave. Paranoia dominated me as I thought through a worst-case scenario of Alyssa arriving home from work while I was out on my run. I execute an initial cover-up drill, putting everything in a hasty order in the house. Empties were stashed away, beers pulled from the fridge, and a quick sweep of the countertops were done. As I was running my cover-up, I was figuring out which store to hit up. I could not go back to the same store I purchased from on the first run. It was only 90 minutes ago that I checked out with enough alcohol that should have lasted a normal person a week. If the employees saw me come back in for alcohol, they would certainly judge me. While grocery stores were an easy primary go-to, these secondary runs required me to think differently in my approach to acquiring alcohol. My goals were to distribute where I did my purchasing from so that any staff member could not fully comprehend all of the alcohol that I was buying. To them, I wanted to seem like a strange face that came in every few weeks. Executing a secondary run was thrilling. I became hyper-focused, heart racing, and breathing rate rising once again. I kept a sharp eye out for any police on the drive to the store. I arrived at the gas station and quickly hopped out. I did a quick scan for any familiar faces as I approached the front door. An unanticipated run-in with an acquaintance was my primary fear on this mission. Coming out of the chapter and skipping ahead. Entering the house, the intermission for Jeremiah Johnson was playing. The familiar tune filled the first floor as I dashed to the kitchen to resume my drinking escapade. There was no enjoyment and no reprieve of anxiety in this instance, just a rushed and panicked experience as I attempted to consume and distract myself from the reality that Alyssa's arrival home was approaching. My drinking plan was no longer going to hold up. I was going to blow well past my intended level of intoxication when Alyssa arrived home. I started thinking of an audible for the rest of the night. I needed to pivot to preparing dinner and thinking up an excuse I will give to her if she questions my behavior. I went back over my excuses that I had crafted from the weeks prior. I was building a theme as a part of the lie that I was dealing with an agonizing and complicated mental issue. Psychosis, paranoia, anxiety, manic depression. They were all on the table for me to draw from that night to deflect the attention from the real root cause should Alyssa question if I was drinking. I have to pull this all together, I thought. I was flooded with an all-consuming panic. She can't know. No one can ever know, I thought. I start in on the cover-up. Skipping ahead. I began making dinner after the cans were cleaned and ready to be brought to the basement. I waited for Alyssa to call. I abused her loving trait of calling me every time she was walking out of the pharmacy to head home. That call was my final warning to end my drinking for the day. My phone buzzed. I looked at it sitting on the countertop and paused, knowing I was committing to furthering the lie when I answered. Hello? I made myself sound rushed. Hey, just leaving, Alyssa said from the other end of the line, sounding tired. Okay, I have dinner going. See you soon. And with that, preparations for the final act of the day began. Nervous energy started building within me. It was as if I was an understudy who got pulled in to see the third act through, waiting for the curtain to rise on a play's compelling conclusion. I vigorously brushed my teeth and cleaned my face. Quickly, I looked in the mirror. There was a hollowness in my eyes. I moved on from the mirror. It was too painful to look at myself, and readied for the arrival of Alyssa. There was an undeniable thrill that I discovered in manipulating the situation and building onto the continuation of the lie. I had found an outlet that I was pouring all of my creative energy into. As other parts of my life began to suffer, the maintenance of the lie was the only creative endeavor I had in life. Confusion and anger were my close allies for building on the lie. They caused Alyssa to question her own take on reality. I had a script that I ran on these evenings. My objective to close the day was to get to bed without getting questioned about my behavior or getting caught. Coming out from the chapter, I go through basically what is the script that I would run in these situations, and back into the chapter. I ran through the script in my head as I readied myself. I heard the loud thunk of our front door deadbolt being unlocked, the door swinging open, and the sharp staccato of Alyssa walking on our wood floors in her work shoes. Hello? The curtain lifted. My eyes opened to complete darkness, except for a singular soft glow that floated inches from my head. I stared at the blurred form until clarity began to come and numbers began taking shape. 1:12 a.m. I feel drunk. I want to scream, to lash out at myself, but I hold back. I know sleep will evade me the rest of the morning and the next few days. I am about to enter into the hell of a detoxification period that has become the price I pay for succumbing to the pull of alcohol. I lay awake and stretch my mind back through the details of the night before. Full details of the evening escape me. I check the bed space next to me by moving my foot, and it touches Alyssa laying next to me. In feeling her skin, I longed to be embraced and told that everything was going to be okay as my mind and body began spiraling out of control. Did Alyssa suspect anything, I wonder? The thought eats at me. I don't remember details of our conversation. Start simple, I think. Dinner. I try to remember what we ate. From there, I can try to piece together other important information that seems to be slipping my mind right now. I'm bothered that I can't remember what Alyssa and I talked about, or the general tone of the evening. Does she know? I wondered. The thought agonizes me. Anxiety begins taking over. Did I get caught? My mind obsessively wonders if I left any empties out as I continue to strain to recall the details of the evening. I need to check downstairs to settle my mind. I slip out of bed as quietly as I can so as not to disturb Alyssa. I pause at the doorway to ensure Alyssa has not stirred. Then I slip downstairs, desperately trying to remember if I left myself any alcohol to drink as I continue my attempt to recall what happened. My right hand tremors at my side, a sure sign that my body was entering into the detox phase. Why did I start drinking? The fear of the detox starts setting in. I descend the stairs to start searching my usual hiding places. I feel like a psychopathic killer returning to the scene of their crime, purely for the thrill of witnessing firsthand the chaos and confusion that their actions had created. I frantically check my usual stowaway spots where I hid partially drank cans. I check for sloppiness in my cover-up actions, looking for spills or other evidence that could catch Alyssa's eye when she wakes in the morning. I rub the palm of my right hand and shake it fiercely to try to rid myself of the tremor. It bothers me immensely to see the manifestation of my drinking in a physical form that I have no control over. Seeing no sloppiness on the main level, I descend into the depths of the basement. Our basement was a dank, unfinished space that we utilized for storage. My hiding spot was tucked directly under the stairwell. There was a cavity that was sufficiently low and so awkwardly shaped that even Vernon Dudley would have felt guilty housing Harry Potter there. Yet I could contort my body and reach my arm further along the run of stairs to drop my package of empties for safe and secure keeping. It was a space Alyssa knew nothing about. I reached my hand blindly in to start feeling for my stash. Sifting through the bags of empties caused shame to crash down upon me as I realized how much I drank. You're a fuck-up, I thought. Anxiety builds as each bag that I extract is full of empties. I desperately grab around, searching for more, fearful of the detox symptoms. Suddenly, my hand finds something with mass. A full beer. I exhale and smile. A little treat that I left myself from the night before. My heart skips a beat. I found a reprieve to the detox symptoms. With a shaking right hand, I quietly crack open the beer as I kneel on the cold cement floor that is partially crumbling under my knees. There is no thought. I just drink. I'm disgusted at the flavor of the warm beer in the early hours of the morning, but I know the mental and physical relief that it provides. I drink the entire beer within a minute, constantly worrying that Alyssa may have awoken and wandered downstairs to find me. I cram all the beers back into hiding and head upstairs. My right hand has stopped tremoring and my mind is at ease. I rinse my mouth out with water in the kitchen and then tiptoe upstairs. Alyssa woke often during these checks as I was leaving or coming back. I often excused myself with an air of annoyance, insisting that I couldn't sleep because of a certain stressor. This morning she didn't move. I slid back under the covers to settle in and face myself away from her, ensuring I minimized the chance that the stench of alcohol reached her nose. The one drink has settled my anxiety enough for the moment. I know the morning will be hell, but right now my problem has been solved. At the sound of my alarm, I drag myself from bed and immediately put up a barrier. I still cannot remember the details of our evening the night before, and evading discussion is the easiest way to deal with the unknown. I start at 7 this morning and don't have a break until noon. I lie as we pass each other at the entrance of the bathroom. She doesn't respond. I feel the confusion and hurt emanating from her as I move past her. I sense her pause, wanting, hoping to talk in order to understand. I long to be held by her, to be told that everything is going to be all right, that this problem will go away. I scream at myself to rid our lives of the lies and excuses, but that scream is muted. It's the part of me that must be stifled. I enter my office and close the door. I begin counting down the hours until Alyssa leaves, so that I could deal with my detox symptoms alone. My eyes are bloodshot from the lack of healthy fluid and sleep. My stomach turns, my head feels like a confusing combination of ache, and fogginess, and my right hand shakes again. I go to type in the password to my computer and fail because my right hand doesn't have the coordination to punch the keys. I try again and fail again. I take one hand in the other to steady myself and with one finger punch in my password. My computer lights up and I stare at the screen, feeling myself fall apart inside. I hear Alyssa readying herself for the day downstairs. I hear her come upstairs in our bedroom. I close my eyes and picture the scene occurring behind the closed door that separates us. I see stress building up in her body, the questioning of what's going on and why her life seems to be unraveling. I know our evening before has everything to do with it. What did I say to her? I question. She finishes the final touches for the day, and then I suspect she turns and looks at herself in our full-length mirror. It's not a look of vanity. Instead, I see her looking at herself, willing herself to find the strength and seeking the guidance to bring her through another day. I can sense her fear, wondering what condition she will find me in when she comes home. I sense it all. I want to embrace her, to throw every struggle away so that we could just be together and I could be honest with her. But I keep the door shut. Goodbye, she says through the closed door. See ya, I reply softly. I watch out of my office window as Alyssa pulls her vehicle around the corner. My computer screen is in sleep mode, not having been touched for the last hour. I wiggle my mouse to turn on the screen and confirm my limited work commitments for the day. Don't do this, I think. I walk painfully downstairs, grab my keys and turn on my vehicle from the entryway. You don't have to do this. I already know I'm going to lose this battle. I'm just going to drink enough to get rid of the detox symptoms. I won't lose control today. This time, it will be different. I hang my head, knowing that now I was lying to myself. That's the end of the chapter. Again, it's chapter 16, entitled Cycles. And if any of you out there are struggling, if any of this resonates with you, I want to stress again, you're not alone in that battle. And there is a solution. There is a solution that rids you of the madness, rids you of being unable to go 2.5 seconds without the obsession and the urge to drink. And a solution that will lead to a life that you could never even fathom, especially when you're in the darkness of this hell and this unending loop of succumbing to urges and feeling like you are losing out to the pull of this substance. Thank you for those of you who have stayed with me and stayed with my wife through all of this, through this discussing difficult time. And for those of you who feel like the solution may never be found, don't give up. Keep working. Keep finding what works. Keep reaching out and opening up to others. That's all I've got for today. Love you all. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with others who might find it impactful. And give us a rating through your streaming platform of choice. Ratings and comments help spread the work to others who are desperately searching for a solution. This simple action could have profound impacts on the lives of others. My hope is that my story can help those who feel alone in their struggles with addiction or any other aspects of life. You can follow us on social media at Chapter 3 Stigma on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to reach out with a message through one of those channels, I will respond and let you know that you are not alone. All the best, you are loved, and know that this life is full of abundant joy and wonder, and is worth every struggle and bit of suffering you must endure. Until next time.